Yeah, my name is Senior Master Sgt. Roy Powers out of Stewart Air National Guard Base. I am currently in Wing Plans. I'm a Loadmaster on the C17, and I'm also the Wing Process Manager. So I've used my education experience here to develop a continual process improvement system for the Javits Center. Early on, I asked if they were planning on collecting data. They created a really robust model, very well thought out, but there was no process that I could see for collecting data so that they could look for where their restrictions in the process could be. What we created was a very basic program that anybody can use. We're using iPads and Google Sheets, and we're capturing data from the different points along the process. So what we do is we embed people in with the patients as they come through, and we're capturing the process time for each step along the way. And that data comes in real time for the operations section to make adjustments. And then we also use that data to analyze for our maximum flow at each one of those stations. Some of these agencies have control over these processes, and everyone's been very receptive to trying to maximize their flow through. So in registration, for example, we're seeing that it takes 50 seconds for somebody to register, and we can do some calculations and find out how many we could expect at 12 hours of capacity with 5 lanes. So what we saw with vaccine draw time earlier this week, there was a bottleneck or a constriction there. So the pharmacy changed their process. Now they went to a new pharmacy model, and now that's no longer a factor. So then we look at the next most restrictive process to determine what our through flow will be. And then as an organization and as a joint task force, we're putting resources on that process to try to increase that flow. So it's a continual process improvement. It's all hands on deck. Everybody is working together to improve each and every one of those processes so we can get the most people through in a day.
What has the reception been from the different agencies that have kind of learned about what your tool is and what you're doing here?
Well, as I said, everyone's been very receptive. We know what the mission is here. It was what we all signed on for. We want to vaccinate the most people that we can. So every agency has been continually improving the process. So we've got the military control and registration. They're aware of how long that takes. They came to me today to ask if they add a step, what does that look like for our through flow? So I explained to them that, if we add another documentation, that goes up to 0.6 minutes, we're going to reduce our time. So therefore, they're already talking about increasing the number of registration tables. And what we do is we take this data and we put it into our analytic tool to really get us these maximum through flows. And we're talking about where we've got variation, where we have our newest bottleneck, and then we make those adjustments throughout the operational period. There's a formula in there. If anything gets adjusted on edit, it populates a time, and then it has a very simple calculation. And then all that data from each patient gets fed to this dashboard. So the dashboard is the real-time look at what's going on, and then we feed that into our analytic tool. You can see it visually here. So these bars are each time they followed one of the new patients through, one of the customers. And if that's flat, that means that process is very consistent with very little variation. Right now, this is showing our registration process, and that's right now anywhere from 5 to 9, 10 minutes, as you see here. So with 80 stations at this average time, that's currently our max throughput. All agencies here, it comes up in our briefs, we're looking at that and we're trying to figure out some mitigation strategies to increase that through flow for registration. I think I could bring this to another site, spend a couple days, and they would know how to operate this. So to me, if it's a tool that only one person can use, it's not going to be useful. So I could see this being used at other sites around the state. And with the goal of maximum throughput, we need to do that continual process improvement. We need to know what our bottleneck is, and we want to put resources against it. Once we figure out what our maximum throughput is, then we can level the process and make sure that we have too many resources in another station. So I collected a couple days worth of data, built the spreadsheet, and it was a matter of a day or two, and it really took off. People saw the value and have been very supportive and see this more as a tool than a static look, which is what I envision this as, a tool to gauge as the numbers go up, are these average times going to change? We're going to have to continue to look at this average time and see if there's other forces that may drive the times up or down. I suspect inoculation times will actually come down with more flow. And that's going to be due to the pressure of the line. If there's a big line, there might be less communication between the nurses. Right now, it's a happy moment when people are getting their shot, and it's a human interaction. It's great. The nurses are talking to the patients, but they're still doing it in around 2.5 minutes. We expect that to be under 2 minutes, and at under 2 minutes, they can inoculate around 12,000 a day. It was embraced by the chamber, by DOH, and I hope that this helps. So we're not surprised when we start going up to 10, 12,000 a day through this facility. This work is going to be more valuable in the coming weeks.